Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sonia Palmer, Director of Development for Family Pathways, and welcome to our second Food for Thought. Today we'll be interviewing Lori Quist, Director of Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Services here at Family Pathways. I'm going to be stepping off camera to interview Lori, and she'll come and sit here so that you can see our faces without masks. For those of you who are new to Family Pathways, this organization has deep roots in this community. Starting in 1978, we've stood by the side of our neighbors, providing essential services in the form of 9 food shelves, the only domestic violence emergency shelter in 5,200 square miles, a community advocacy program in sexual assault services, an aging services program, supervised visitation, mobile food, all of the different services needed to help people with their basic needs. Today we are one of the largest nonprofit agencies in East Central Minnesota and Western Wisconsin and serve nearly 20,000 people a year. October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and throughout the month you can watch us on Facebook or go visit our website. We're sharing and featuring content for you to look through that's raising awareness about domestic violence in our community and highlights the services we offer and honors the memory of the lives that we've lost to domestic violence so far in 2020. So let's get started. Thanks for being with us, everyone. Hi, Lori.
Hi, Sonia.
Thank you for being here. Let's just get started. Can you tell us about the domestic violence programs here at Family Pathways?
Sure. Like you said, so the Refuge Network existed up until 2014 when we merged with Family Pathways. At that time, we served the PIC counties, which is Pine, Isanti, Chisago, and Kanabec. And our primary counties really were were Chisago and Isanti. And now we've expanded services to reach Carlton County as well. So we have services in all 5 counties. We have community advocates that service the population in each county. So each county has an office with 2 advocates per office. And then we have a women's shelter that houses 15 women and then their children if they have children. And that's also located in Chisago County.
Are there other kinds of programs that are part of the DV program that others may not really realize that we have?
Sure. I like to tell people that we have a strong continuum of services. We're pretty circular. We not only serve persons of domestic violence and sexual assaults, we also serve the batterers or the perpetrators. Some people would want to call them perpetrators. And so we have a program called Step Up, which is pretty popular in some of our southern counties. Chisago and Isanti County use this quite a bit. We're moving into Pine now. And we do have services in Kanabec as well, which is a program, it's 26 weeks, it's fairly intensive. The batterers attend at least once a week, sometimes twice a week. And they get to talk about, their internal feelings. They do some cognitive work around why they abuse, anger management. It's a large skill, it's a large process identifying that faulty thought process around why they abuse or even taking a step outside of their comfort zone just to receive services. A lot of these guys are court ordered to get some kind of services, and this is a great step in the right direction to end the cycle of violence for them, to identify what's making them abuse or batter. And so the program is run by 2 facilitators, a male and a female. We hold a new program every 26 weeks in a different county. Due to COVID, we've been doing 13-week programs right now, twice a week, so that it's a little bit more intensive. We get them done a little bit quicker, and we move county to county a little bit quicker.
Wonderful, thank you. And since you brought it up, can you tell us a little bit more about how COVID is affecting victims of domestic violence and how we've responded to that, how we've had to pivot in the work in your program?
Sure.
To respond.
Domestic abuse services or domestic violence services and sexual assault services is a very trauma-informed, hands-on process. When we work with victims of domestic violence, we really like to be face-to-face. We like to be with them in the courtrooms. We like to be with them during any type of interaction with law enforcement or just anybody in the community that they come in contact with. We really want to provide a supportive, strong network to that victim. And due to COVID, we are really, like I said, in in-person services. We've gone from being in person to really working remotely, which quite frankly, in the beginning, we just thought was not possible. We just couldn't do it. Now we're finding out that we're getting actually very good at it. We are still meeting with clients in person. We're doing a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff from a remote work setting. So our advocates are working from remote settings from their living rooms or their kitchens. Gives them a lot more time to really dive into some of the cases and have more interaction with the victims, one-on-one interactions, because they're not in the office constantly, being interrupted by telephones and doors and those types of things. So it's actually been a pretty strong process for us. One other thing to think about is that most of the court systems have gone to virtual court hearings. And so a lot of our advocates who used to show up in person with the victim and sit next to the victim in a courtroom are now assisting them virtually, and they're going to hearings virtually with the victims. So, that's another, really big change, but we've been making it work, and our numbers, our statistics this year compared to last year are very comparable. We're seeing about the same number of victims. Some of our counties are a little higher than other counties, but for the most part, the numbers are about the same. So that's positive to us. We know that we're reaching the same amount of people, even virtually.
Wonderful. And what about for the victims themselves? How are you hearing that COVID is affecting life in their home?
Sure. There's been a few studies, not a ton of studies. We're following a lot of trends that have been put out by our coalitions and just other newsworthy medias that are telling us that, there is an uptick, that more people are being harmed due to domestic violence, but the process has been interrupted because people aren't leaving their homes. And so there isn't this opportunity to maybe make a phone call and start the process, or to go to their neighbor's house to ask for help. They're constantly in the home with the batterer. They're not able to leave. The opportunities just aren't there to get help. And so, by us putting more of a media message out there, we're hoping to reach more people and, let them know that there are other ways to get in touch with us, like through an email, or to send a text message, or just to call our 1-800 number 24 hours a day, because somebody will answer it 24 hours a day, instead of thinking that, they're only going to get somebody from Monday to Friday during business hours. So, we do know that there is a population of people out there that are being harmed and they don't have help and they're afraid. So we want to make sure that everybody gets the message in all of our counties, and quite frankly, across Minnesota, that there is help out there.
On that same note, can you share with the audience who a domestic violence victim might be?
Sure. I tell people all the time, it isn't what you think. It's everybody. It's nobody. It's when I say that, I mean it's somebody that you would never in a million years think could be affected by domestic violence. It's somebody that blends into the community. It's somebody that's well respected in the community. It's somebody that maybe would be considered more wealthy. It doesn't affect people due to their economic standards, or their race, or their gender, or their religion, for that matter. It spans, or their age, yes, it spans across all populations. We have victims start as young as 15 years old, some even before that, all the way up. We've had victims in their 80s. It's men and women. I think there's a misconception out there that this only happens to women and that the batterer is always a man, and that is just not the case. We see same-sex marriage. We see violence in those marriages. We see, relationships where the woman is dominant and is the batterer. And, probably back in the 40s and 50s and 60s, that was unheard of, or it just wasn't spoken about. And now it's really evolved. And we know that, victimology is just, it just doesn't have a type. It's just not correlated with one type of person. It's everyone. So, I think we've started looking at things like working in schools so that we can just get the messages out to young kids to start identifying what's right and what's wrong, or what's healthy and what's not healthy in a relationship. And we've also found ourselves this last year working with the senior population, because there, believe it or not, are a lot of victims of domestic violence in the senior population.
Wow. What can you tell us about you and your team? Like, who are you guys? These wonderful people who work behind the scenes. Who are you? How are you? Who are you? Why do you come to this work?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I have an incredible team. I am surrounded, I'm probably one of the most fortunate supervisors out there to be surrounded by the most compassionate, caring, driven group of individuals. They get up every morning knowing that their days are going to be tough, knowing that they're going to hear horrible things at times, and knowing that if the victim needs them till 8 o'clock at night, they're going to stay until 8 o'clock at night. They're probably people that you know in the community. Some of them have been with us for 5 to 7 years. Some of them are fairly new. What I'll say about advocacy as a whole is it's a helping profession. It's something where, and a lot of people don't even really understand what advocacy means, but advocacy to us means help. It means resources. It means trust, bonding. It means just being there for somebody and holding their hand when they need somebody to hold their hand. It's somebody who's resilient, but who's kind and compassionate. My team is, I get goosebumps when I think about my team, because they've done some really remarkable things over the course of the last year and a half that I've been with Family Pathways, and I'm proud to say that I probably have one of the best teams in the state of Minnesota. And I don't like to talk about myself. It's not about me. It's about the victim. It's about the staff member. But I'll be really honest. Years ago, my mother ran an organization for domestic violence, and I watched my mom's life transform to a place where the gratification of helping a victim, it changed her life. It changed my life as a kid. She helped so many women in a time where there wasn't any help for women. My mom is still alive. She lives in Forest Lake, and I still run into people who she helped, and they say, your mom is a remarkable woman. And I never in a million years thought this would be an adventure or an opportunity that I would want to take. But this has probably been the most rewarding couple of years of my life. And so, watching the things that happened in my childhood and into adulthood, I spent a lot of years working in state jobs and wonderful jobs. This job itself has been more rewarding than any other job I could have ever been in. There's something to be said about waking up every morning and knowing that you're going to touch somebody's life. And that's what my mom did for a lot of years. And if I could be, half the person she was, I'd just be thrilled.
Touch somebody's life and even probably save somebody's life. I mean, that's what you guys do. You're all amazing, really. How does the domestic violence program, actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to one question because I want to wrap up your services part of it. But can you explain to our viewers what a shelter is?
Sure.
What happens there? Who gets to go there? How long do they stay? And then also, yeah, let's just go there.
So our particular shelter is really set up as a home. It is sectioned off into many rooms, many bedrooms. Some of our rooms have like a queen size bed and a twin. Some of them have a queen size bed and bunk beds. Some just has maybe one twin bed. We have kind of a communal kitchen, several bathrooms. We have room for a family to come in and occupy a room by themselves, so that they have some privacy and they can be together in one room. So some of those rooms may even have a king-size bed and a set of bunk beds. But all of our rooms are functional around, number of people that are going to stay with us. In order to get into our shelter, they have to meet a criteria. They have to be, a victim of domestic violence. That's what our criteria is. And that could be defined many, many different ways. So that's a very loose definition. But we have an intake process. They go through a kind of a questionnaire. We talk a little bit about what's happened. maybe we don't get into the meat of things right at that point, but we determine whether or not we would be a good place for somebody seeking shelter. And then really, our shelter is not defined by number of days stayed. And there are a lot of shelters in the state of Minnesota that have a 30 or 60 or 90 day period of time that they can stay in. Ours isn't that way. Ours is really based upon what they need from us. And we don't say, you can only be here 30 days. We say, let's get a plan together and let's get you moving forward and let's find you a place of your own at some point. But that might take somebody 2.5 months. It might take somebody 5.5 months, and we don't really put a restriction on it. I'd like to say that we're creating a family environment there. We're constantly changing who comes in and who goes out, and it's a tough place at times because there are a lot of families and they're learning to live together or just have children together that maybe lived in a home by themselves, or really what people would think a very normal home. 2 parents, 1 child, 2 parents, 4 children. And this is now taking that family and meshing them with another family. So, how long they adapt is different based upon each family. We've had clients there, 4 days. We've had clients there a year. So it's a pretty wide range. And then, services start the minute they get there. We do an intake process. We identify, could this person need mental health? Could they need support services from the county? Do they need financial help? Do they need economic help? Do they need food and clothing? Do they need, any of those types of things? And then we compile resources for them and we assist them in order to get those resources. So, maybe that's vehicles, or maybe that's, maybe they have no transportation, and we show them what the Heartland Express could use, or they could, take the Heartland Express, or they could apply to get their driver's license because they've never been allowed to drive or have a driver's license. We see a lot of that. We see a lot of our clients come in, they need basic care. They need basics. And so we start from scratch, and they develop their palate, so to speak, and then they stay as long as they need to, and then they move on to their next steps.
So helping them find resources leads me to the next question, which is how does the domestic violence program interact, collaborate, work with the other programs we have at Family Pathways, namely the food program and our aging services? Maybe sure. Visitation, I don't know.
I'll tell you a little story. So it's a very cool story. I tell this all the time. So last winter we had a person call our 1-800 number inquiring about shelter, and she happened to be with her spouse at the time, and it was a non-battering relationship, so there was no domestic violence. But they had called the shelter to explain to us that they were living in their car and they didn't have warm clothes, they didn't have any food, and they didn't have any money. And our shelter advocates, I'll never forget the day I was making chili. It was a football Sunday. I was in my kitchen and I got a call, and the advocate said, I know we should be able to help them, but I don't know what to do. And so what should we do? And it was, talk about collaboration, it was just remarkable. So I called one of the directors here who manages our thrift stores, supervises our thrift stores. I called another director here who takes care of food. And I just said, I'm sorry to bug you on a Sunday, but I've got these questions and we've got these people that really need our help right now. What can we do? Make a long story short, we ended up opening one of our thrift stores. They got clothing head to toe, warm winter coats, snow pants, boots, hats, mittens for free. They were hooked up with our food shelf program. They were allowed to set an appointment. That following Monday they went in and they got resources to get fed, basically, right then in that moment. We also found some resources for housing for them. We gave them a resource to stay at a hotel that night till they got their services Monday morning, and then we hooked them up with a social worker at the county they lived in, and they went on to get some housing resources. And from what I understand, and of course I don't know the outcome, I would assume that they got to where they were going, but from what I understand, I wasn't there, they were just, grateful. And I just know that at that point in time, even when it was a little bit outside of our services, or maybe even a little bit outside of our expertise, we put our heads together and we got them what they needed in their time of need. So I think, as a whole, we're really good about tapping into those resources across the board.
Wow. We had a question emailed in about the shelter, actually, and what is life like for kids at our emergency shelter?
Yeah, I answer that question a lot. So if you ask one of my staff members, they're going to tell you that we're a family out there, and that there is a time where, the kids sit at the kitchen table and do homework. You all know with COVID, we're having to wear masks. It's a little bit more difficult to play together when we have masks on. But, I've been out there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon where they're having their afternoon snack and they've got their masks on and they're doing homework together. They watch movies together. They play on our playground together. They go for walks. Our shelter's in the middle of kind of a woodsy area. There's trails for them to walk on. A lot of times they make friends there. They become friends with the other kids. They eat together. They, sometimes they have what I would call movie nights or popcorn nights, or, we have an event going on where we're grilling and they're outside, helping us grill, or, they're running around like kids do, riding bikes. Every year we get a large donation of bikes, and a lot of times once they transition to their next step, they take the bikes with them. They get a new bike out of the deal. But I'd like to say that we try to keep it as normal as possible for those kids, because interrupting their life is just as hard as interrupting mom or dad's life. And so, we try to make it feel like home. There's Disney. Their bedrooms are, fairly generic, but they get to decorate their bedrooms. They get to bring items from home, and if they don't have them, we get them for them. A lot of times donors will bring us things like stuffed animals or, Legos. Legos are a big one. We get Legos, a donation of Legos, a box of Legos, and you'll see them build, castles like any other kids. So, the more normal, the better. That's, I would say that's really how their life is. And they get on the school bus out there. They have the same regimented routine as any other kid that goes to school. So yeah, the more normal, the better. And we really try to embrace them and really try to understand in depth what they're going through at that time, because each kid is really different.
Yeah. Thank you. Tell us about, in this last couple minutes then, because you guys do such an amazing job, but what are some of the wishes or needs the program has? How can people get involved?
Sure. COVID has really prevented us from having a large force of volunteers, but we really rely on volunteers. From, raking leaves to maybe homework work to filling out paper to, helping somebody fill out an application or a driver's license application or transportation. We've really relied on our volunteer services in the past, and this last year has been very challenging. We haven't had or been able to utilize a ton of volunteers, and I know there are great people out there that want to volunteer. So, hopefully when times return to a better place, we'll get to use our volunteers again. And from a donation perspective, or even just a needs perspective, we're like any other home, really. We're always looking for things like, and this is gonna sound strange probably, but toilet paper and paper towels and kids' boots in the wintertime, or mittens, or things like rice or dried goods, that we use a lot of. We get most of our food from the food shelf. If you've ever been to a food shelf, you know that they stock the basics. So there isn't a lot of extras. There isn't a lot of things that kids are super excited about. So sometimes a donation of, sweet things is really fun out there, or cake mixes where they can bake cakes together, those types of things. But if you look at us from a household perspective, we're always looking for those types of things. We would love to have donations around, paper products like copy paper or pens and pencils, or office supply type stuff, because quite frankly, we are a nonprofit organization. We do some fundraisers throughout the year, but we really rely on donations and some grant money that we get. So any of those types of things would be wonderful.
Excellent. If somebody is suspecting that they know somebody is experiencing domestic violence, what is your advice?
Sure. I think most of us probably have had a time in our lives where somebody that we've loved or been close to has experienced, you know, a tough thing, whether it be domestic violence or sexual assault services, or, you know, an assault of some sort, or maybe even just the beginning stages of watching your teenage child, you know, go through some dating, some dating things that maybe don't look normal or don't feel healthy. And what we tell people is there's a wealth of information online, to take a look at our Facebook page, to take a look at our website, and also to have our 1-800 number really handy. We're one of those places that is open 24 hours a day. We take questions, we talk to people, we just have conversations. It's never formal unless the victim is requesting it to be formal. So, you know, if you're feeling like you know somebody's in danger, of course, if it's imminent danger, please call 911. If you want to get more information or gather information for that person, please call our 1-800 number, where we can answer questions for you, or just get that person you're concerned about our information. And I think that's really how the ball starts rolling, is that, you know, that information is handed to a victim, and they know now that they have a lifeline, and they can reach somebody 24 hours a day.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Lori. I'm gonna stand right behind you. I got my mask on. Thank you. Somebody once told me, and it's always stuck in my head, when I also asked, you know, what if somebody you know is experiencing domestic violence, and they said, you look them in the eye, you grab their hand, and you look them and say, or when somebody tells you that they're experiencing, not when you suspect it, but when somebody tells you, said, this isn't right, what's happening to you, I'm sorry. There are resources for you, and I'm here to help you find them. And I've had to use that in my life, and I've just, I think the important thing is for people to feel seen and validated, and that there's somebody out there to help them. So thank you, Lori. You guys are amazing. So proud to work amongst all of you helpers. And the work that you've heard about today doesn't happen without the support of our community, of course. So if you'd like to get involved, please visit our website at familypathways.org. And I want to make sure that you, when you are also on our website, go to the page that talks about our work. Click on the slider that says October's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and you'll be able to see our memory wall, and soon a couple videos. One is an explainer video about advocacy, and also and how you can find the help you need. The memory wall is a very moving piece on our website, honoring the 22 lives lost so far in 2020 to domestic violence, and we would really love for you to hear their story, to read their stories. And if you or someone you know is experiencing relationship violence, please reach out, like Lori said, to our 24-hour crisis line at 1-800-338-7233. Also, 1-800-338-SAFE. And get help today. We're here for you. Please call us or email us anytime. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.